therapy and the right way you change the brainwaves, and that it is medical, but they're not covering it. There's the litigation, which this bill does not again intend to touch in any way. But now what do we do going forward? This bill gives the families the comfort of knowing that the insurance company has to cover this therapy.
Okay, and the getting back to the mental health parity, that was clarified. Was that last year that by the federal government that?
No, the state's mental health parity law was passed back in, I think, the year 2000, late 90s or early 2000s.
Okay, so the state of California has been ahead
Correct.
of the curve on that issue.
Correct, and the federal government has passed a parity law as well.
Great, okay.
Vincent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other debate or discussion? Senator Steinberg, no more debate? I don't see any. You may close. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill. Blakesley. Canella. Dutton. Emerson. Fuller. Harmon. Lowenthal. Aye. Runner. Strickland. Weiland. Yee.
Ayes 25, noes 4. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Members, we are going to file item 58. Senator Padilla, just one moment. Is file item 58 where you want to start, Senator Padilla?
President, actually amended. I understand.
Senator Padilla, just one moment. Just a little housekeeping before you take that item up. Members, there's a letter at the desk requesting the withdrawal of AB 724, which Senator Padilla intends to take up now. It will be withdrawn from rules and ordered to third reading. All right, we will take a roll call vote. Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. No. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Yee. Anderson, no. Hancock, aye.
Aye.
Barrett Hill, no. Blakeslee, no.
Ayes 23, noes 11. The motion carries. Senator Padilla, you are welcome to take up 724. The secretary will read.
Assembly Bill 724 by Assemblymember Bradford, an act relating to energy and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, AB 724 extends until January 1st of 2020 the authority to collect funds for the existing public goods charge program that sunsets at the end of this year. Specifically, the authorities to collect $250 million for energy efficiency programs, $75 million for public interest energy research, and $75 million for the Renewable Energy Trust Fund. I have to tell you, after a series of hearings through the Senate Energy Committee, we have insisted that reforms and increased transparency and accountability measures for all programs be included in the language for the program to be reauthorized. Programs must be focused on reducing demand for electricity. We have authorized, or we seek to authorize, the Public Utilities Commission to develop effective finance mechanisms for energy efficiencies and upgrades. We also have required that the PUC post data on its website on the use of funds, cost of programs, and retrofit by region to ensure proper evaluation and oversight. For the Renewable Trust Fund itself, the language allocates $25 million annually for existing biomass and biogas and wastewater energy facilities, authorizes funds for financial and technical assistance to local and regional governments, and we continue the existing authority for the New Solar Home Partnership Program. There's a requirement for the CEC to report annually to the legislature on its work plan for each fiscal year. And finally, this bill is joined to SB 870, which reforms and renames our research program. I ask for your aye vote.
Members, is there debate or discussion on this item? Senator Dutton.
You know, this is an example of a program that once it gets started, even though the program's not really being funded anymore, we just don't seem to want to ever let them expire the way we promised the people. This particular fund was created for really good reasons. And frankly, I didn't remember it. It was actually created back in the 1990s until the president of Edison International came to my office and had suggested that we should not renew. We should not extend the sunset on this particular program because, frankly, everything that it was originally intended to handle has already been provided for in other types of line item charges and fees. He also brought to my attention the reason why is he says, based on California's current policies regarding energy, our renewable energy policies and definition of what counts towards renewable energy, you know, it was said by the ratepayer that we're going to see a 40% increase in our utility rates over the next 5 years. President Edison pointed out to me he's concerned there'll be a ratepayer rebellion that'll actually come up because right now we have absolutely the highest utility rates, electric rates for businesses and manufacturers. We also have the 7th highest for residential users. You know, enough is enough. People need to have a sustainable, affordable energy supply. We aren't just trying to create a green energy supply. We're actually trying to bring people back to the covered wagon because I got to tell you, this is just another example of why we have problems. Let it go. Give the ratepayers of California a break, for God's sakes. Let this thing, you know, let the sunshine date come, you know, let it happen. Let it go away. Let it happen the way that the people can expect it to do. Let them have a break on their rates. I would suggest a no vote.
Members, further debate or discussion? Anything? Senator Pavley.
Briefly, because the hour is late and growing later, I consider this just sort of a simple math problem. First of all, I think the Energy Commission has done extremely well in using the public goods charge on energy efficiency. And the math problem is this, and it was Commissioner Art Rosenthal who came up with the analysis, it's in the best interest of ratepayers to invest in energy efficiency than for a PUC to have to build a new power plant. It's less expensive, it's smarter, and it's in the best interest of consumers. And California's energy consumption has actually stayed flat for the last 25 years, benefiting businesses and consumers alike. I rise in strong support of this measure. California is leading the way in energy efficiency, and that's the smart thing to do.
Further debate, members? Anything more on this item? Senator Wright. Senator Wright.
You know, this is a painful effort for me because the measure that is about to sunset is actually a bill that I did 10 years ago. I authored the bill that did this.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate
The concern that I have is that what we authored and what the Energy Commission did are not the same thing. And as the person who authored the program, I barely recognize what has become of what I started 10 years ago. And what I started was a continuation of something that had begun when I first came in. I appreciate that many of the things that are in Assemblyman Bradford's bill are attempts to closely or more closely monitor the efforts of the Energy Commission. My concern is that the check that we're giving them is still too blank. So I'm not prepared to support it today. I looked at a couple of things that we were trying to do because I was thinking there might be some other things that we could do to lower rates. And in California, we have disparate rate systems for people who live in different parts of the state. We looked at that. I prepared some language, and I wasn't trying to forcibly put it into anyone's bill because that's not how I roll. The challenge that I have with this, I got to tell you, is that many of the things that really do benefit poor people are actually contained in another part of the electric bill, which is where the public goods charge started, was a benefit to lower the bills of poor people, the CARE program, weatherization, other things. Those programs are covered. Now what we're talking about is transferring money essentially from poor people to more wealthy people. And there's no real direct benefit that you can establish that those poor people got. I was teasing someone today when we were talking about in the old days there was the fable of Robin Hood. We've now moved to robbing the hood because that's essentially what we're doing with this program. You're taking money from poor people and giving it to wealthy people. If you truly believe that some of those things that you talk about are what the value that they create, then the rich people ought to pay for those programs. So, with a heavy heart tonight, I look at a program again that I authored over 10 years ago. I look at a program that I helped convince a number of Democrats and Republicans to vote for over 10 years ago. And I'm saying today that it just may be time that we go back to the drawing board and come up with something that concisely does what we're doing. The purpose of a public goods program, some of the research is good, and I listened the other day to the commissioner, and he was describing some of the benefits of the program, and I won't go into it, and I questioned some of his personal habits, and people got angry at me about that. But most of the information that he stated was factually inaccurate. Irrespective of whether or not you like the program, the facts ought to be right. In fact, it was a guy from back east who said, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. The fact is that the benefits alleged are not clear that we've achieved many of those things. I don't care how many birds are affected by global warming. We spent several $1 million to find that out. We still don't know, but the money's gone. We spent several $1 million counting fish in a stream. We still don't know how many fish were in the stream, but the money's gone. The consistent part of this program, once it moved away from benefiting poor people and actually lowering their rate, the only consistency is that the money's gone. And whether or not you achieve that benefit is specious. So I'm concerned, for example, that we took $200 million from ratepayer dollars, this was on the gas side, not the electric, that was designed to give poor people new water heaters and weatherization. In San Diego and in some parts of Orange County and in parts of LA County, those poor people can't get what they were entitled to that they paid for, but we spent money on things that had nothing to do with the rate of the other things. So this program now needs some work. I still believe in the concept of energy efficiency. I still believe in the concept of weatherization. There are a number of people who were employed doing that. But members, I tell you, those things that got me into the program have since been transferred to another part of the bill. This money now goes into programs that are so esoteric that it's not clear that anybody benefits except for the people who got the money. This needs a much tighter grip. It needs a much tighter oversight. And there needs to be a substantially greater amount of restraint on the Energy Commission. I like this Energy Commission, and I'd like to work with them to make sure that we tighten up the requirements on where these dollars go and that we have a much stronger sense of what benefit we got back. I appreciate the effort that Senator Padilla and Assemblyman Bradford are making in that regard, but at 11:54 tonight, I'm asking for a no vote.
Any further debate, members? Senator Padilla, would you like to close? Senator Woke.
You have to look to your left. Madam President, I wish to rise in opposition to this bill, and I want to just speak very briefly about this for a moment. This is the first year, in fact, the first session that I've really gotten involved and had legislation in the area of energy and energy efficiency. And that's somewhat unusual for me because my district, in which the University of California lies, has a tremendous amount of investment and activity and on solar, wind, biomass, and the land use that is related to that. I asked weeks ago that language be put into these bills that would incorporate some of the actual results and science that and the experience that people have had with energy efficiency programs. And I thought that would have made it a better bill and better policy. At the last moment, the language disappeared. And I find that to be rather curious and disappointing. I think this needs more work. I think that the public goods charge is a very important thing. But I think it has to be informed by the experiences we've had. And my brief experience with this is that that is not the case, that something else occurs. I ask for a no vote.
Any more debate, members? Any more debate? Senator Steinberg on this item?
Just very briefly, Madam President, I'd just like to remind the members here that regardless of the fact that there may be disagreement about various pieces of this, let's not forget what the whole is about here. The whole is in a time where, because of budget difficulties, there's very little ability to stimulate job growth. Here is a chance to extend an existing charge to the tune of, what, $400 million a year to help generate more jobs in California. We're going to turn our back on that because we don't agree with every single piece of it. I think that's a mistake. Urge an aye vote.
Further debate, members. Further debate. Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Madam President. I have to underscore what the pro tem has just said. Members, we say we want clean air. We say we want renewable energy. We say we want to combat greenhouse gases. We say we want to create jobs in California. And then we take a step back from an existing program. We talk about moving California forward, and we talk tonight somehow about taking a step back from a program that has a decade's worth of success behind it. Perfection? Perhaps not. Differences of opinion about specific elements? Understandable. But we're talking about whether or not we're going to take a giant step backward, just as we have articulated a series of forward-looking goals that will make California the 21st century state and job creator that it should be. Innovation does not come without effort and investment. This is an innovation initiative. Assemblymember Bradford is to be complimented for putting it forward, and I would request an aye vote.
Senator Dutton.
Just want to remind members, right now the California ratepayers paying the highest utilities in the country, 7th highest for residential. They're going to see a 40% increase over the next 5 years, and that's per the ratepayers office. This fund has never been used for what it was supposed to, at least not recently. It's been a slush fund. It's been put into the general fund. It's time to stop that abuse. Vote no on this. Let it suspend the way it's supposed to.
Members, any further debate? Anything more? Seeing nothing, no more microphones. Senator Padilla, you can close.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As you know, and as members of the Senate Energy Committee know, this subject matter, the public goods charge, has been a top priority and area of focus for our committee for more than just this last year, working on the last year and a half. And we've had no less than half a dozen hearings evaluating what the research program, the energy efficiency programs, and the Renewable Trust Fund program, how it has performed over the last 10 years. I appreciate Senator Simitian and Senator Steinberg's comments. We have laid out some ambitious energy and environmental goals for the state of California. And in every discussion or debate in establishing those goals and objectives, we have known that we still have work to do from a policy standpoint, from research and technology standpoint, that would help us achieve those very goals. While there have been some successes to point to for the last decade, there was clearly room for improvement in how we conduct research, in how we implement energy efficiency programs, and how we invest our Renewable Resource Trust Fund dollars. And that's exactly what's reflected in this bill and SB 870, the two-bill package that seeks to reauthorize the public goods charge. Energy efficiency. Report after report, evaluation after evaluation has quantified is a better investment when it comes to job creation, emission reductions, and cost effectiveness. A win-win-win. That continues to be the case and continues to be the biggest area of investment of funds derived from this particular surcharge. The research program I won't speak to right now because that's in the bill SB 870 making its way back from the Assembly. But again, more focused, more aligned research with better transparency and oversight. The Renewable Trust Fund, because a couple people have spoken a little bit for and some against specific element or language of the bill before us. Let me tell you, if you paid attention to the news reports over the course of the last 10 days, there were, compared to the dollar amount we're dedicating to the Renewable Resource Trust Fund, multiple times that in requests and proposals of how that money should be divvied up. We don't have the resources to spend it on all of everybody's special, preferred, priority programs, whether it's in their district or otherwise. We had to collectively agree upon what were the most prioritized areas for the Renewable Trust Fund investment. And we're doing that only as a starting point. So the way this bill suggests the money be spent is only for the beginning part of the extended life of the program. What we're trying to do from a priority balancing standpoint to an oversight and transparency standpoint is require the Energy Commission to bring to the legislature via the budget process an annual work plan and requiring them to defend how that evolving work plan from year to year meets the highest priorities. Colleagues, Our pro tem, more than anybody else, has asked us to continue to conduct oversight on all the departments and agencies that are in the jurisdiction of our various policy committees and how they implement programs. What better way to ensure that the money is being spent consistent with the legislature's outlined policy priorities than an annual work plan that has to come to us for approval via the budget. So if it doesn't include your one specific preference, that is a process and a mechanism that continues an annual opportunity to advocate for that, even if it's not in the initial language today. I believe it's a balanced bill with the appropriate mechanisms for oversight, accountability, while providing the resources to work towards our stated and adopted environmental and energy goals. I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Blakesley. No. Calderon. No. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. No. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. No. Wyland. No. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Canella. No. De Leon. Aye. Emerson. No. Huff. No. Negrete McLeod. Rubio. Strickland. Wolk. Yee.
Senator Padilla moves a call. Senator Padilla, you're going on now to AB 1392. One moment. First, we'll go to motions and resolutions, members. Motions and resolutions. Pursuant to Joint Rule 33.1, Joint Rule 61A13 will be suspended for AB 1392. Is there objection? All right. There is objection. All righty, we'll call the roll then. Senator Harmon, we're getting two different messages. Do you want a roll call or not? All righty, we will call the roll. This is for suspending the joint rule. Suspension of joint rules. Senator Harmon asked for a no vote. The chair asked for an aye vote. Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. Aye. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Aye. Yee.
Ayes 35, no 0. The motion carries. The rule's suspended. Members, Senate Rule 29.3 will be suspended for AB 1392. And then further, members, there's a letter at the desk requesting the withdrawal of Assembly Bill 1391. Is that correct? 3191 instead of 90? 1391 will be withdrawn from Rules Committee in order to third reading. And there's objection to that as well. Motions and resolutions will call the roll. It takes 21 votes. Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Herman. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. DeSaulnier. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Correa. Fuller. Aye. Carol Lieu. Lowenthal. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Strickland. Yee.
Ayes 23, noes 13. Motion carries. Senator Padilla. We'll go to AB 1392 without reference to file. The Secretary will read.
Assembly Bill 1392 by Assembly Members Bradford and Williams and relating to energy and making appropriation therefore.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, AB 1392 contains language that would allow the California Energy Commission to expend funds awarded to California under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act within the designated time frames. The State Energy Program has already allocated $25 million for the 2009-2010 fiscal year to the Department of General Services for an energy-efficient state property revolving loan program. One of the highlights of the stimulus package that came to California. So much so that the Energy Commission seeks to transfer an additional $50 million from lesser-performing programs to this well-performing program for the 2011, 2012, and 2012-2013 fiscal years so that money can be expended according to the ARA deadlines. I ask your aye vote. Republican colleagues, I do believe the caucus analysis on your computers is now current and up and reflects the support recommendation.
Debate or discussion, members? Debate? Any debate? Seeing none, Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Hancock. Aye. Herman. Aye. Hernandez. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla.
Aye.
I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Rubio. I. Runner. I. Semidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. Vargas. I. Walters. I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Wyland. I. Yee. Huff. I. Hernandez. I. Canella. I. Gaines. I.
Call the
Calderon,
absent
aye.
members. Call the absent members. Sorry.
Berryhill. I. Blakesley. I. Emerson. Strickland. Yee. Wrong we have is I.
I-36, noes 1. The measure is approved. The measure passes. Senator Padilla.
Madam President, request to take up AB 1069.
1069. This is also without reference to file.
Yes.
The Secretary will read.
Assembly Bill 1069 by Assembly Member Fuentes, an act relating to taxation to take effect immediately, tax levy.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, the moment a lot of us have been waiting for. AB 1069 extends the California Film and Television Tax Credit Program for 1 year. There's been a lot of debate and discussion on this proposal during the course of the year about the length of time and whether any conditions would be placed on the additional incentive. For now, I believe it's appropriate to extend the program for 1 year to maintain our commitment to the program. And as a reminder, colleagues, this is not a giveaway to a production up front, but a post-production tax credit offered only after a state review has been completed, which demonstrates that a film or television production actually created jobs and was filmed here in California. I ask for your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion? Debate. Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this bill. Tax credits create jobs. Thank you.
Any further debate or discussion, members? Senator Padilla, you may close.
I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. I. Anderson. I. Berryhill. I. Blakesley. Calderon. I. Canella. I. Corbett. I. Correa. I. De Leon. I. DeSaulnier. I. Dutton. I. Emerson. I. Evans. Fuller. I. Gaines. I. Hancock. I. Herman. I. Hernandez. I. Huff. I. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. I. Leno. Ted Lieu. I. Carol Lieu. No. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. Price. I. Rubio. I. Runner. I. Semidian. Steinberg. I. Strickland. Vargas. I. Walters. I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Wyland. I. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Blakesley. Evans. No. Leno. Pavley. I. Semidian. I. Strickland. Yee.
Ayes 34, noes 2. Measure passes. Senator Semidian, for what purpose?
To take up an item without reference to file, Madam President.
And which item is that?
That is Senate Bill 791, ma'am.
SB 791, without reference to file. The Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 791 by Senator Semidian, an act relating to mammograms.
One moment, we'll straighten that out.
It was a Steinberg bill. Semidian. Semidian.
Let us make a correction on the board, and then you can begin. There we are. We're at SB 791, members without reference to file. And have Senator Simitian, you may open.
Thank you. Members, if I could have your attention, please. This is a gut and amend. This is the bill formerly known as Senate Bill 173. This is the bill that deals with mammograms and dense breast tissue. You will recall that Senate Bill 173 did one thing and one thing only, and that is it said that when a woman who goes to a radiologist for a mammogram is assessed as having dense breast tissue, which could mask the existence of cancer, that she would get a notice, a two-sentence addition to the notice she already gets in the mail that tells her that she has dense breast tissue. The bill, which was co-authored with Senators Runner and Alquist, whom I thank again, went off the floor 34-5. It was heard in the Assembly Business and Professions Committee, where it had a 9-0 vote. It was then heard in the Assembly Health Committee, where it had a 16-0 vote. It was then held, unfortunately, on the Assembly Suspense Committee, but in cooperation with the leadership of the Assembly, we used Senator Steinberg's vehicle 791 for the contents of SB 173. There were additional amendments taken to the bill that left here 34-5. Among those amendments, there is now a sunset date in the bill. There is also a delayed implementation. There are some other technical amendments, and there are some amendments that are designed to clarify liability issues. With those amendments, the radiologists have removed their opposition. CAPG, the California Association of Physician Groups, has removed their opposition. The bill went off the floor of the Assembly with a preliminary vote tonight of 57-6, and I would respectfully ask for an aye vote. Members, it's two sentences that can save thousands of lives. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote on concurrence.
Debate or discussion, members. Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you, Madam President. With permission, I'd like to ask the question of the author.
Senator Simitian, will you take a question from Senator LaMalfa?
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. That's a great risk of being insensitive. As a male here, I'm very supportive of breast cancer research and support the events in the district and all that goes with that. But what I'm concerned about, and what's been brought up to me by docs, obstetricians, and others that I've talked to or their representatives, is that when you categorize the different types of density and notify the 3 and 4 levels, but don't notify the 1 and 2 levels, and there's still research to be done that shows that the level 1 and 2 may have a false sense of security. And so how do we address that it may be a false alarm for not sending this message to all levels of breast density, and how is this legislature the one to decide that, as opposed to more of the research that's out there pending that might get a little clearer picture on the level 1 and level 2?
Happy to respond, Madam President, members. Members, I want you to listen to the question, because this argument keeps changing. No matter how often we answer and respond, a new argument pops up. First, the argument was, well, don't tell people this information even though it's accurate and has been assessed by their radiologist pursuant to federal law and shared with their referring physician pursuant to federal law. Don't tell them that. You might give them an unwarranted sense of concern. But if you look at the language that's actually in the bill, it's very matter of fact and it's very factual. Then after making that argument, the same opponent said, well, why don't you tell everybody? And so I was left somewhat bewildered. A minute ago, the argument was, don't tell people, you might unnecessarily worry them. But now you want us to tell people who don't have dense breast tissue about this issue so that you'll worry them some more, which of course made no sense. Senator, the answer to the question is the bill focuses on the patients who are most at risk. There are 4 categories, in category 3 or 4, which is defined in the bill, you have dense breast tissue. That means your risk of cancer is higher, and significantly for the purposes of this bill, it means that when the mammogram sees that dense breast tissue and reads white, it hides the cancer that cannot be seen because it also reads white. So the notice goes to the women who are most at risk, and it simply encourages them to talk to their physician, which is what an individualized approach to detecting breast cancer would provide, as opposed to simply churning patients through a system without regard either for their level of risk or for the effectiveness of the mammogram. That's the reason that the bill specifically says third and fourth levels. And by the way, we have, at the urging of folks in the medical profession, now clarified that it is not a subjective judgment, but a question of whether or not they have checked box 3 or 4. That means specifically, if you check box 3 or 4, you send the notice. If you don't, you don't. And that provides the clarity and specificity that makes it very simple to know when you send the notice and when you do not.
Thank you. And I appreciate your sensitivity on this as well as your concern. I'm just concerned that when the legislature decides what level it should be, 3 or 4, who decides if it's a 2 or a 3 when it might be a 2.5 or a 2.7 in reality, if you could quantify down to the 10th or the 100th. And so I think they'd be really careful about how we go about this. Again, we have mixed feelings about it from the professionals in the industry about this, so I'm really hesitant, though I want to be supportive of the best possible research and information on this very serious subject, that we ought to have a lot more outside expert input on this from those that are opposing. So I would very much urge caution when we enter into an area that the legislature is not expert on. Thank you.
Senator Ahlquist.
Thank you. I appreciate Senator Simitian's legislation. I appreciate Senator LaMalfa's question. And I would simply like to say, having seen this bill several times, having spoken on it several times, and knowing it's almost 12:30 at night, that what this bill basically says is that when a woman has a mammogram and the breasts have dense tissue, that a woman ought to be allowed to be notified of this condition, because there are times when early cancerous conditions are hidden by the dense breast tissue. I rise and ask for your strong support. Thank you.
Any further debate, members? Anything further? Senator Simitian, you may close.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, let me just clarify. We do not substitute the judgment of lay people in the legislature. Quite the opposite. And that's the irony of the debate. The bill specifically relies on the judgment of medical professionals, accepts their professional expertise, and says that when they make the judgment that there is a level 3 or level 4 of breast density, that they provide the notice. I'm going to read the 2-sentence notice, and then I'm going to ask for an aye vote, Madam President. Because your mammogram demonstrates that you have dense breast tissue, which could hide small abnormalities, you might benefit from supplementary screening tests, depending on your individual risk factors. A report of your mammography results, which contains information about your breast density, has been sent to your physician's office, and you should contact your physician if you have any questions or concerns about this notice. Those are the 2 sentences that will put a patient on notice that the mammogram she's had, the happy gram notice that she gets that says we didn't see anything, may not be the last word in breast cancer detection and prevention. I ask for an aye vote on concurrence.
Secretary will call the roll.
Ahlquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Herman. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. Pavley. I. Price. I. Rubio. Runner. I. Semidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. Vargas. I. Walters. I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Wyland. I. Yee.
Call the absent members.
LaMalfa. Padilla. I. Rubio. Strickland. Yee. Berryhill, no to aye.
Ayes 35, noes 1. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Senator Price, you wish to take up AB 1391 without reference to file?
That's correct, Madam President.
Just one moment, and the Secretary will read.
Assembly Bill 1391 by Assemblymember Bradford and Act relating to electricity.
Senator Price.
Madam President, members, AB 1391 is a modest RPS cleanup bill jointly authored by Assembly members Bradford and Smith that received bipartisan support in Policy Committee. It's a measure that addresses an unnecessary and duplicative regulatory process contained in the SB 2 in the first extraordinary session, which was passed earlier this year. Instead of bifurcating enforcement of the RPS requirements for publicly owned utilities between two regulators, the California Energy Commission and the Air Resources Boards, AB 1391 would consolidate all such authority under a single agency, that agency being the Energy Commission. Amendments were taken to address concerns raised in committee about the possibility that the bill could subject a publicly owned utility to penalties from multiple regulators. The bill now clearly indicates that the Energy Commission has sole authority to impose penalties on the publicly owned utilities. Chaptering out issues are being addressed, and the most recent amendments due to the language in Senate Bill 23 authored by Senator Semidian. AB 1391 is a straightforward RSP cleanup measure, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Is there debate or discussion, members? Any debate? Seeing none, the Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. No. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. I. Canella. No. Corbett. I. Correa. I. De Leon. DeSaulnier. I. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. I. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Huff. No. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Ted Lieu. I. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. No. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Rubio. I. Runner. No. Semidian. Steinberg. I. Strickland. Vargas. I. Walters. No. Wolk. No. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee.
All the absent members.
De Leon. Hancock. Hernandez. I. Leno. Semidian. Strickland. Wright. Yee. Calderon. Ayed and no.
Call the absent members.
De Leon. Hancock. I. Leno. Semidian. Strickland. Wright. Yee. Correa. Aye to no.
Senator Price moves a call. Senator Price moves a call. Members, I want to take the last. I want to take the last item in the supplemental file. Then we'll go to Senator Padilla. Senator Woke, file item 86. You're prepared to take that up? The Secretary will read.
Assembly Joint Resolution 17 by Assemblymember Solario relative to law enforcement programs.
Senator Woke.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a resolution that asks Congress and the President to increase funding for federally partnered law enforcement and crime prevention programs such as the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program, Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, Safe Neighborhood, and State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. It calls on the federal government to increase funding of these programs and to support law enforcement officers throughout the state. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Anderson.
I rise in support of this bill. The language was terrific when Tim Donnelly had the language, and it's now still good when it's Solario's bill.
Members, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Is there any objection to unanimous roll call? You would like a unanimous roll call? All righty, we agree. Then it is ayes 40, is that correct? Ayes 40, no 0. The measure is passed. Senator Padilla, you are taking up SB 870?
Madam President, I believe SB 870 is back from the Assembly for a concurrence vote. Desk confirms they're in possession of it. I believe the language is
right.
on the
It's
desk.
right here. Is that what we're going to?
That's
Thank
the
you.
one.
Then. Members, we're going to take up SB 870 without reference to file.
But, Madam President, Republican colleagues need a couple of minutes.
All right, then we can leave that for now and return to it. Senator Hancock. And you want to take up SB 202 without reference to file?
Yes.
One moment, and we'll get that up there. The Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 202 by Senator Hancock, enacting two elections.
Senator Hancock.
Thank you, Madam President and members. SB 202 clarifies in statute the current requirement of the California State Constitution, Article 2, Section 8C, that initiative and referendum measures are to be voted on at a general election in November on even number years or a special statewide election. This is also good government because more Californians vote in November. It's well documented that primary elections draw far fewer voters than general elections, particularly among the number of decline to state voters. In fact, in primary elections, about 30% of eligible voters have voted since the late 1980s. The two lowest primary election turnouts in California history took place in 2002 and 2006, with 25% and 23% participation of eligible voters, respectively. In contrast, general election voter turnout has averaged closer to 48%. Low turnout elections do not represent the needs, priorities, and desires of the larger electorate, and that is precisely why 75% of all states with an initiative process, 18 out of the 24, do not allow initiatives to be placed on primary or special election ballots. SB 202 also moves the vote on ACA 4 to the November 2014 ballot. This will have the benefit of allowing the economy to more fully recover before the possibility that state funds will become more restricted, causing the need for even greater cuts to schools, higher education, public safety, parks, and the public goods that have made California a great place to live. As the governor has pointed out, California's immediate and long-term fiscal problems are immense. Even though we made savage cuts and reduced our long-term structural budget deficit, the governor still estimates we'll have several $billion of budget shortfalls in the coming years. In addition, we must pay down what he has called our wall of debt. If AC4 were to pass in 2012, it would require the state to cut expenses still more to build up a rainy day reserve, in addition to whatever cuts we would have to make to bring the budget into balance in that particular year. It makes no financial sense or common sense to cut further for the purposes of bolstering the reserve for a rainy day fund when it is clearly raining. Members, I would ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion, members. Senator Dutton.
You know, Madam President, members, you wonder how come you have a trust factor in this body at times. And this bill, what's happening right now, is exactly that reason. You know, used to be a time in this institution when you had an understanding, an agreement, you know, it's something you kind of stuck by. And we just heard an example about a fund that was created 10 years ago that frankly hadn't been used the way that it was supposed to, but that was the deal as understood there. Hell, we can't even make it 1 year. You know, that was part of a budget negotiation that had a spending cap in place as part of the deal that was supposed to be on the June primary. You know the reason why we're moving it to November? Because we aren't satisfied with stealing bills. We want to steal elections. The only reason why it's being moved, and I know this for a fact because it was told to me by the public employee unions themselves, they want it in June. They don't want this thing to happen. They never did. They are not honorable people to deal with because they can't even live up to an agreement that was made a year ago. Now, let's reject this nonsense and get on with the business of the people, but this is not the right thing to do. It's wrong, and it was part of a previous deal not just a year ago. And we still can't even abide by something that was understood a year ago. So vote no.
Further debate? Senator LaMalfa on this item? Oh, Senator Emerson, fine.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I just want to point out, I've mentioned this in committee, and we had a full hearing on this bill just moments ago. But in 1971, when Governor Jerry Brown was Secretary of State, he put forth a legal opinion that said June is a fine time to do a initiative process on the ballot. I'd also like to point out to my progressive friends on the other side that it was in a June primary that Prop 9 passed, which established the FPPC, the Fair Political Practices Commission. So be careful what you ask for. Thank you. I ask for a no vote.
Any further debate, members? Anything more on this item? Senator Leno.
Colleagues, there is another side to this debate. When this agreement was made for ACA 4, it was before the floor fell out from under us. Our revenue has plummeted by 25% since that time. So let's compare this to a family. Your income drops by 25%. All of your credit cards are maxed out. You're paying interest on all your debt. You've got a wall of debt. Well, maybe it's not $35 billion, but it's a wall of debt. And you're going to open a savings account. It makes no sense. But that's just my opinion on ACA 4. We're not killing ACA 4. We're just saying it'll be on a general election ballot in November of 2014. Now, with regard to the other part of the bill, careful what you wish for. That's a very good point you make, and I mean that sincerely. Because a June ballot can be gamed depending upon who's not in the White House or who's not in the governor's mansion, because clearly in 2012, with a Democratic president, there will be a competitive Republican primary in June of next year. But when there's a Republican in the White House, there will be a competitive Democratic primary in the June of that year. Let's get out of gaming who's going to have the benefit of a June primary and level the playing field when most people come out to vote in a general election in November. That's best for all of us. So we're not winning one year and losing the next on very important policy measures that are on our ballots. So it is good public policy, sound public policy, to support putting initiatives and referendum on the November ballot. Benefits all of us, and ACA 4 should be put to the voters in a November ballot, but also much more supportable when we're not struggling to stay at water level, when it'll be appropriate to augment our rainy day fund. I ask for an aye vote.
Further debate? Any further debate? Senator Pavley on this item.
Yes, briefly, just on the consolidation of elections, all putting on the general ballot. I rise in support of that. To me, it just makes absolute sense. Sometimes there's millions of people who vote in the general election who don't bother voting in the primary election, some for the exact purposes that Senator Leno stated. If there's a competitive primary in the presidential year, there's a lot out, whether it's a Republican or Democrat. I don't care whose side that benefits. It makes sense to get the maximum amount of people out to the polls to weigh on these hugely important ballot initiatives. I think it would give focus to it. It wouldn't get lost in a primary where some people aren't paying attention and coming to the polls. And in fact, when you look at the 24 states who have an initiative system like we do, 18 of those states do not allow initiatives to be placed on a primary or special election ballot. I think that makes sense. Ask for your aye vote.
I know.
Senator Liu.
Thank you. So sometimes we need to do gut amends because a deal comes together, such as this Amazon deal. Sometimes we do gut amends because there's intense urgency, such as a 12% unemployment. This is not one of those bills. It's not like we didn't know there's a presidential election next year. Not like we didn't know it's going to happen next year in November. This bill could have been introduced far earlier in this year. We knew this is a party line vote. We are Democrats. We control both houses. There is no reason this bill could not have been introduced earlier.
What?
This bill didn't even get a policy committee hearing in the Senate. The lack of process in this bill is inexcusable. It is deeply ironic that what this bill is purporting to do is to improve the democratic process, and it got so little process here. We as Democrats should be ashamed of how this came to this Senate floor. I'm going to vote yes on this bill, but I'm absolutely not happy about it.
Any further debate, members? Any further debate? Senator LaMalfa.
My colleague from, I believe it's Torrance, was on such a great roll there. I'm just at the end there, the no, the vote the no would have been the clincher. But all due respect, I'm really troubled by it for the same reasons as my colleague there. But it did not go to a policy committee, and I'd like to just note a little anecdote on that. As I had a little bitty resolution called SCR 58 that would simply, I introduced a couple weeks ago, maybe a bit late, but just a little resolution to commemorate that, speaking of initiatives, that October will be the 100th anniversary of the initiative process in California. So I thought, maybe we could celebrate that here on the Senate floor, but we couldn't hear that bill because there wasn't a regularly scheduled election committee. So I get that. We can do it a little bit later. We're known for doing resolutions months after the actual date of the event, and I guess we're cool with that. So we couldn't hear a little resolution, but we can do this the same day without the policy committee, push it right to the floor on a wharf, and this is a major policy change for the state in the way voters view the initiative process. Sometimes initiatives are qualified to be on June for a purpose by those that bring them. We want to shove them all to November. Now think about when we have sometimes 20, even 25 initiatives when people are feeling particularly frisky about initiatives in California. Do you want to have that whole pile of initiatives all on the November one each year? Not to mention, as my colleague Senator Dutton said, the ACA 4, which was scheduled by this legislature back in early '09 as part of a package, an agreement that we make to be heard in June of 2012, pushed back another year and a half. So is it not about politics? Is it not about on-the-spot policy here where we decide that maybe the state is out of money to do a rainy day fund, to put some kind of budget limitation? Perhaps we need it even more right now. What if the state was flush and we had an initiative that would spend more money and we wanted to delay that arbitrarily the other direction? I'm really troubled by the process, by the lack of trust, of keeping your word, of keeping your deal that is made, and that we couldn't even have it heard in a policy committee. So for all those same reasons, but with a different outcome, I ask for a no vote.
Further debate, members. Senator Anderson, your microphone.
Yes, please. I have a floor alert from SEIU Local 1000, and I'd like to just read a line from it because I think it really cuts to the point of this all. It says, likely voters tend to be whiter and more affluent than registered voters and more likely to vote in primaries. Bingo. I think it says it all right here. I guess we know why. You're ramrodding this at almost 1 o'clock in the morning after the press goes home. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to release it to the press because I don't want them to miss out on what you're doing. Good luck. Another fine move.
Any further debate, members? Anything further on this, Senator Hancock? I think you can close.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would actually like permission to read from a 2008 report from the Center for Governmental Studies on this matter. They say most initiative states, 18 out of 24, do not allow initiatives to be placed on primary or special election ballots. The rationale is straightforward. Primary and special elections draw fewer, more partisan voters than general elections, so voters in such elections do not represent the needs and priorities of the population at large and therefore should not determine the state's future alone. They also point out that from 1911 to 1970, in fact, there were only initiatives because on the November ballot. And that's because the Constitution explicitly says it that way. In 1970, as Senator Emerson pointed out, there was an election that was consolidated with a bond issue, and they allowed an initiative to be on. And they go on to say that this, what might have been an administrative error, was then sort of continued into the future. So, members, what this bill will do is clarify in statute that the Constitution will be adhered to in the future and that primary, that ballot measures, initiatives, and referendums will appear only on a general election ballot to ensure the largest possible public participation. I would ask for your aye vote.
All debate having ceased, the Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Herman. No. Hernandez. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carolou. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters? No? No. Wolk? Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill? De Leon? Aye. Berryhill? No. Hernandez? Aye. Berryhill we have as no. Rubio? Aye. Strickland? Wolk? No. Yee.
Ayes 23, noes 15. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Members, I'd like to lift the calls. I think we have several items on call. Members, we're going to lift the calls and go down the items. First up is file item 53 by Mr. Solorio. The Secretary will call the absent members.
Calderon? Correa? Carol Liu? Lowenthal? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Pavley? No. Wolk? No. Wright? Yee. Yee, aye.
Call the absent members.
Calderon? Correa? Carol Liu? Lowenthal? Wright.
Senator Padilla replaces the call. We are at Senator Wolk's item taken up without reference to file SB 618. 618. Secretary will call the absent members.
Alquist? Aye. Emerson? Hancock? Kehoe?
Aye.
Aye. Tedlu? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Runner? Aye. Strickland? Walters? Wyland? Yee. Yee, aye. Emerson, aye. Hancock, aye.
Ayes 35, noes 1. The Assembly amendments are concurred with, and we'll move on to file item 81, Senator Calderon's item. File item 81. Secretary will call the absent members.
Alquist? Aye. Berryhill? Emerson? Fuller? Berryhill, aye. Emerson, aye. Fuller? Hancock? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Tedlu? Aye. Price? Aye. Runner? Aye. Strickland? Walters? Yee. Yee, aye. Fuller, aye. Walters, aye.
Ayes. Call the absent members.
Strickland?
39 aye, no 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. That was 81. File item, Mr. De Leon's item, without reference to file AB 116. SB 116. SB 116. The Secretary will call the absent members.
Calderon? Strickland? Wright? Yee. Yee, aye.
Ayes 22, noes 15. The measure fails. It had an urgency in it. File item 58, Mr. Bradford's item. File item 58. The Secretary will call the absent members. This is also an urgency measure, members.
Negrete McLeod? Rubio? Strickland? Wolk? Yee. Yee, aye. We have Leno as aye.
This is, call the absent members. This is file item 58, members, AB 724, urgency clause. Call the absent members.
Negrete McLeod, Rubio, Strickland, Wolk. Correa we have as no.
Ayes 19, noes 17, measure fails. And then there is AB 1391 without reference to file. Secretary will call the absent members.
De Leon, aye. Leno, aye. Smidian, Strickland, Wright, Yee. Yee, aye. Evans, aye to no. Correa, no to aye. Calderon, no to aye.
Call the absent members.
Smidian, Strickland, Wright.
Senator Price replaces the call.
Joe. No, not up on this.
Senator Price replaces the call. We're going to go back to the top of the on-call items. File item 53, one more time, AB 350, file item 53, and the Secretary will call the absent members.
Calderon, Correa, Carolou, Lowenthal, Wright.
File item 53, ayes 17, noes 18, that measure fails. Members, we just have one item on call now. Members, we're going to take up the consent calendar. We still have an item to take up in extraordinary session, so we'll go into extraordinary session after consent, and we have a remaining item on call. And as far as I know, that is all the business before the House. So if you know something I don't know, let us know ASAP. We are going to go to the consent calendar, members. Secretary will read.
Assembly Joint Resolution 8, 18, and Assembly Concurrent Resolution 83.
Members, any items to be taken off consent? If there's no objection, we'll take a unanimous roll call. Ayes 40, noes 0. The consent calendar is approved. Members, we're going into extraordinary session. At this time, regular session will stand in recess, and the first extraordinary session will be convened. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Senator Leno will take up. Is this the? You're going to have to tell me. Senator Leno at his desk.
4. AB.
Secretary will read. Secretary will read, and then we'll go to Senator LaMalfa.
Senate Bill 4 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review, an act relating to local government finance and making appropriation therefore to take effect immediately, bill related to the budget.
Thank you. Senator LaMalfa, for what purpose?
We just need a couple minutes for this one to come up on the computer, please. So,
Happy to accommodate you. Let me know when it's good.
thank you.
Senator Padilla. For what purpose?
Madam President, request to lift a call on AB 1391.
Senator Padilla, we're in the first extraordinary session, and we've announced a bill, so we're going to handle this, then we'll go on to other business.
Thank you.
We'll take you up in regular session. The analysis is up, members. We're at SB 4 without reference to file. Senator Leno's prepared, and the Secretary is read. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I thought we could end on an up note tonight in a bipartisan fashion. We've got a great bill here. This is an issue of concern for police chiefs and cities, which they brought to the administration's attention. And so what this bill will do is rescinds a provision that would have required a maintenance of effort requirement for cities for receipt of funds from the local law enforcement services account, allowing local agencies greater flexibility to meet local public safety goals. I ask for your aye vote.
Members, is there debate or discussion? Any debate on this item? Seeing none, any objection to a unanimous roll call? Any objection? We'll call the roll. There's an objection. Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. No. Semidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Aye. Yee. Yee. Aye. Semidian. Aye. Fuller. Aye.
Call the absent members. Call the absent members.
Emerson. Aye. Berryhill.
Call the
Aye.
absent.
Strickland.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Senator Leno, do you have any other business in the extraordinary session? Senator Steinberg, you are going to request to wharf SCR 2 in extraordinary session?
This is to close the first extraordinary session? Yes.
Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 by Senator Steinberg relative to the final adjournment of the 2011-12 first extraordinary session of the legislature.
Well, I know that there were a lot of things done in this session, but I don't remember many of them. But this was the budget extraordinary session, and it served its purpose, including this last bill that helps our local government save some money. I urge an aye vote on closing the session.
Any debate or discussion, members? Any debate? Seeing none, the Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. I, Negrete McLeod. I, Padilla. I, Pavley. I, Price. I, Rubio. I, Runner. I, Semidian. I, Steinberg. I, Strickland. Vargas. I, Walters. I, Wolk.
All the absent members.
I, Wright. I, Wyland. I, Yee. Anderson, I.
Call the absent members.
Cannella, I. Berryhill. Blakesley. Berryhill, I. Blakesley. I. Correa. I. De Leon. I. Dutton. No. Tedlew. Strickland. Yee. Yee, aye.
Ayes 37, noes 1. The resolution is adopted. Members, at this time, the first extraordinary session will stand in recess, and the regular session will be reconvened. Senator Padilla, do you want to take up your, whatever that was? What was that? Lift the call. Lift the call. On which item, sir?
AB 1391, please.
All righty, members, we're going to go to AB 1391, and the secretary will call the absent members.
Semidian. Strickland. Wright. Wright, aye. Hancock, aye to no. Rubio, aye to no.
Call the absent members.
Semidian. Strickland.
Senator Price, I'm prepared to close the roll on this. Senator Dutton, I hear you. Just one moment. Members, the Pro Tem is asking to lift the call one more time, members, on 1391. I intend to announce the vote at the conclusion of the roll call. AB 1391, the Secretary will call the absent members.
Semidian. Strickland. Semidian, no.
Ayes 18, noes 21, measure fails.
Okay.
All that.
Good job. Senator Kehoe, thank you very much for doing such an outstanding job in tough circumstances here tonight. If we can just take a moment and just step back a little bit. I know everyone is tired and a little bit frustrated, and there were some difficult moments here in the end, but there was a lot of good that happened today. A lot of good that happened in the last week, and there was a lot of good that happened in this session. And I just want to take a moment to express some thanks. Let me begin by giving kudos and thanks to our counterparts in the Assembly, to Speaker John Perez, and to the Governor and his administration for their help in keeping the focus on the most important things in California, jobs and the economy. Please give them all a hand. What we all know, but what the public never sees, is the tremendous hard work and long hours put in by our staff members. Much of it after the gavel goes down for adjournment, a tremendous desk staff, unbelievable work that you all do. Led by the Secretary of the Senate, Greg Schmidt, and the great Bernie McNulty, and the entire staff, Zach and Paula and everybody. You're great people, and you're very patient with all of us. We could not get our work done without our Senate floor analysis staff, and those staffers in Senate reprographics, please give them a big hand. The Senate sergeants led by Tony Beard and Katrina Rodriguez, and all of you, thank you. Kudos. To Sandy Wood and to Jane Brown and the Senate Rules and the Rules member staffs, please give them a big hand. To Anthony Williams and Juan Torres and the entire bipartisan Senate Rules appointment staff, they fully vetted and investigated an incredible and impressive list of gubernatorial appointments for Rules Committee consideration in short order before the end of the session. Great job. To Diane Boyer-Vine and all the attorneys and staff at the Office of the Legislative Counsel, again, unsung heroes and heroines who burn the midnight oil. I can't tell you the number of times we've asked them to return amendments at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning, and we thank them and give them a big hand. Our policy, appropriations, Rules Committee staffs that analyze the amendments to all the bills, these folks often create entirely new approaches to solving the problems we face in California in the closing days of the session. And to my staff, all of you, I can't name all of you, but you know how much I appreciate you and think of you as family. Hold on here. We got to say the thank yous here. I know we're all tired. Sincere thanks to my personal staff, especially my Chief of Staff, Kathy Dressler. Thank you, Kathy. To the minority leaders, staff led by Kevin Bassett and Greg Maw, and I'm sure the minority leader will want to recognize his staff too. And for all of you in the back, the named and unnamed, great personal sacrifice, long nights and weekends you spend here in the Capitol is precious time away from your children and your families, and we all thank you for your sacrifice. And the members, finally, on both sides of the aisle. This is a tough job, but I'm proud to work with all of you for the time, for the attention, and the decorum that you've shown in this great chamber. In conclusion, we take a lot of slings and arrows for the work, especially the work done in the last weeks of the session. And sometimes the process is, in fact, messy. But there are also windows of great opportunity that open at a given point in time. And I want to say that I think we have ended the year in this session on largely a very, very positive note. We've begun to tackle the questions of the economic climate by streamlining the CEQA process without undermining our environmental laws. We are dealing with regulatory reform. We've made growing investments in clean energy. We established the first grade advance for universal preschool by funding pre-K for 4-year-olds. That's in this session and more. And in the coming weeks, we'll convene a bipartisan, bicameral conference committee to evaluate, hold public hearings, and take actions on pension reform. I want to thank Senator Dutton specifically. Who I know is tired and gets frustrated, but this is a good man. This is a good man who I know shares some of the pride in some of the work like Amazon, for example, that we were able to do in the last days of the session that he helped lead. To all the members, take stock in a good year. The work doesn't stop. We'll return for a second year of the session with vigor and with purpose. Thank you all for your hard work, for the support you've given me. Let's get some rest and come back and keep tackling the problems of California. Thank you very much. Senator Dutton.
Mr. President, I just wanted to associate my remarks with yours and then also extend our appreciation and thank you to everybody. I know we get a little frustrated at times, but okay. That's what democracy is all about, and that's what we're here for, is express the opinions of the wonderful people of the state. So I want to thank all of you. I'm looking forward to coming back in a few weeks here and start doing battle again. Anyway, happy holidays.
The Senate is adjourned. We will reconvene January 4th, 2012 at 2:00 p.m. Catch an early flight. Thank you.